Board members, it's 6 o'clock, call the meeting to order. The first item is our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The mission of the Marshall Public Schools District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success. Need approval of the agenda. I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Presentation, Mr. Karen, Truth in Taxation, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This will be putting the PowerPoint up for us. Thank you. This is our Truth in Taxation Levy Information.
There we go.
Thank you. Minnesota state law requires a public meeting between the dates of November 24th and December 30th. The meeting must be taking place after 6 p.m. May be part of a regular scheduled meeting like tonight. May adopt the final levy at the same meeting and must allow public comments. Presentation will contain our current budget, the prior year actual revenue and expenditures, the proposed property tax levy, including percent increases, and then specific purposes and reasons that the taxes are being increased. Basic general ed formula. This is go through this each year, share with you how our funding is compared to the inflation. Legislature approved a 2% increase for both fiscal year 2020 and 2021. We appreciate the 2% increase, but as you guys know, that revenue does not keep in pace with our inflationary rates. Current fiscal year 2021, which we are in right now, we need an increase of an additional $503 for a 7.7% per pupil increase just to get back to the inflationary line. You can see on this graph here, shows you the spread between our revenue increases and then inflationary increases. As you know, this spring is when the legislature meets to work out the 2022 and 2023 budget. So we'll need to advocate to get that gap closed a little bit if possible. The levy cycle, I like the cycle, just kind of shows you guys what we go through in the district office each year. As you guys are a big part of that. We'll be following the orange lines as they go along. So from June to December, we work on the levy. We submit the figures to MDE, such as our enrollment, some of our levy information, our lease levy. And we get the initial levy calculation, which we show to the board in September. Between September and October, adjustments are done by both the district and the state. December, we do the truth in taxation presentation, and then the board will hopefully certify the levy at the next board meeting. The next line down, once the levy is certified, we work on the 21-22 budget, which is typically we start that in January, and then present it to the board in June, where in June, the board typically approves that budget. From July 2021 through June 2022, this fiscal year 2022, that is when the levy is actually received for the levy that we'll be presenting tonight. And then the last thing is from July until November is when we do the audit, and then the cycle just goes on and on. We have 6 funds that we do. The construction fund isn't part of this. It's the general fund, which is Fund 1. Food Service Fund 2, Transportation Fund 3, Community Service, which is Fund 4, Capital Outlay Fund, which is Fund 5, and then our Debt Service Fund, which is Fund 7. So the next few slides, we're going to do a comparison of 1920 actual numbers to the 2021 original budget. Want to note that that's the 2021 original budget that was worked on back in April and May that the board approved in June. We're working on the revised budget. So as you're looking at those comparison numbers, it might change a little bit once we do the revised budget. This is the revenue comparison for 1920 actual numbers compared to 2021 original. There's a slight increase in revenue for the general ed. This is being conservative with our enrollment as it's been affected a little bit by the COVID, what's caused by COVID. Also, please note, 1920 revenue includes a little over $635,000 from our MDE safety security grants and a little over $580,000 that we received for insurance recovery for out at our gym that won't be recognized in 2021. 2021 original budget doesn't include the CARES funding that we've been receiving and will receive. We'll include that in the revised budget that you guys will see hopefully on the 21st of December. Food service, the 1920 actual revenue shows a little higher due to the federal revenue from the summer food service program that we had from March through the summer. 2021 budget that we did, we show a little conservative numbers. We did not know that the summer food service program, the federal funding, would be extended into this fall and the rest of the year. So again, we'll include that in our revised budget so you can see that. Also keep in mind that as we go into hybrid and distance learning and some of the changes, our a la carte sales, which is a large part of our revenue, has gone down quite a bit. Transportation shows a small increase in revenue. Community services decrease. Part of that is the CARES funds non-public schools are receiving and spending are not recognized in the original budget. Capital outlay decrease is mainly due to a shift from the capital to debt service for our roofing project. And then the debt service revenue in 1920 is showing higher due to the sale of bonds that we had in 1920 that we won't have in 2021. So here's just a comparison slide showing where a majority of our revenue comes from for those two. As you can see, a majority of ours goes to the general fund. And then here's a breakdown of the revenue by source. I like to show this so the public can see that 82% of our revenue comes from state, and out of all of our revenue, only 9% comes from property tax. If you compare the 2 years, the percentages don't fluctuate very much between the different sources. I'll go over our expenditure comparison from 1920 actual numbers to the current year. General fund holds true like it did with the revenue. 1920, we had a little over $644,000 in safety and security grant expenditures and a little over $580,000 in insurance recovery expenditures that we won't have in 2021. 2021 also doesn't include the expenditures for our CARES funds, which again, the revised budget will show. Food service, again, was going off of what we would have served for regular meals this fall. We'll have to adjust that, obviously, in our revised budget. Capital outlay increase is mainly, again, due to the increase in our LTFM projects we'll be doing this year. Debt service expenditures like the revenue, 1920 was more than 2021 due to the selling of those bonds. So as we look here at the graph, the comparison for the 2021 expenditure breakdown of funds, a majority of the revenue, 73%, just like the revenue, goes to our general. This shows a breakdown by program code. As you guys know, as we talk about every year between this and our budget with the business of teaching students, a little over 50% goes to our regular instruction. The second largest section goes to special ed, which is a little over 20%, and then 9.27% is the next highest, which goes to our sites and grounds take care of our buildings. General fund expenditure by object code. This slide gives a breakdown of general fund expenditures by the object code. Again, a majority of the expenditures go to salary and benefits, as it does any school, which is about a little over 86% of our total budget. This is our budget publication. This is something that we have to submit and publish, and it has been submitted to MDE, put on our website, and was published in the Independent. And this again just shows a comparison between the FY 2020 and the FY 2021 budget comparison. So, and that has to be published out there. So for this year, our tax impact levy comparison, these are the final numbers by fund of our levy limitation certification for payable 2021. Again, this levy revenue, as explained earlier, won't be recognized until the 21-22 school year. As you can see on our general levy, we have an increase of 10.99%. And our overall levy with all funds is about 5.29%. And we'll break that down with the increases, decreases coming up. Our levy distribution by fund, this is a breakdown of the funds. As you can see, majority of it is our general debt or our general debt service. The OPEB debt is zero. That was, we had made our last payment last year, so that was zeroed out. So kind of an overview of property tax background. Every owner of taxable property pays property tax. This is broken out between county, city, and school district. Each taxing jurisdiction sets their own tax levy, often based on the limits of the state law. And then the county sends bills, collects taxes from the taxpayer, and then distributes the funds between the taxing jurisdiction. School property taxes, we'll kind of go over just the steps that in the next slide. And just to point out, the school district really only has control over one of the 7 steps in the property tax process. The city and the county determine the estimated market value. The legislature sets the formula for tax capacity. Next, the county auditor calculates the tax capacity for each parcel of property. Then legislature sets the formula which determines the school district's levy limits. Step 5 is where MDE calculates detailed levy limits for each school district. And then that's where we come in, where the school district adopts the proposed levy in September, holds this public hearing, and then adopts the levy in December. Finally, the county auditor divides the final levy to determine tax rate. Auditor multiplies the tax rate times each property tax capacity to determine the school tax for that property. This is a sample of the property tax form for each property owner, which they should have received in November. Just wanted to point out a couple of areas of importance. First, at the top, it shows where the taxable market value is. If your market value did increase, this will most likely be what drives a larger property tax increase. The school district does not control the market value. Second is the building bond credit, which is the ag credit. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up, but it's important for ag landowners to look at this section to see what the credit is. Below in the section, I sectioned out the different colors just so you can see again that it's not just the school district that has the property tax, it's also the county and the city portion shown out there. So as I mentioned, the ag to school credit, this isn't new. It was enacted in 2017 as permanent law. It affects the existing Fund 7 debt levy, except for the OPEB bonds, which again, in fact, we have zero levy going to our OPEB bonds right now. It reduces farmer and timberland owners' property tax, and it's scheduled to go up to 70% in 2023, which is great. Revenue for the ag school comes from state income, sales, and tax revenue. Just so people know where that credit actually is coming from. This shows we had a 5% increase, up to 55% for payable 2021. You can see going up to 60% the next year, and then again 70% in 2022.
That question on those? Are those increases set in stone or are they budget contingent? At one point I know there was discussion that they were budget contingent. I have to double check.
That they put it in there, but I'd have to double check.
You're asking if they're grandfathered in, Bill?
No, there was discussion at one point when they were putting it in place that they would increase, in this case, to 70% if there was budget dollars available.
Okay.
And I don't remember if, when they finally settled it, if yes, it's going to increase to 70% or it'll increase to 70% if there's budget available.
Yeah, I'll find that out. That's important because that 70% is significant. So ag school credit for Marshall Public Schools, the help of EJ, County Auditor, we get some of these figures in. Total savings to ag landowners in the Marshall Public School District for 2019 total a little over $300,000. The total proposed savings for ag landowners in Marshall Public School District for 2020 was $519,654.28. When talking to EJ, basically the estimate was the same amount, but you could expect an increase in that for 2021. But we didn't go into specific numbers on it. Again, it's important to note that this credit is not on the levy certification. It shows up on the ag landowner's property tax in the line of the statement. So like to do is to show the board and the public that if that actually was in the levy certification, instead of the increase that we had showed prior, would actually be $127,218 decrease or 1.71 decrease if that ag credit was actually in the levy certification. So there's many factors that cause a tax bill for the individual property tax to increase or decrease each year. Like I had spoke before, change in property value, state legislature, increase and decrease in our enrollment, voter approved referendums, and then school board action. The overview of the proposed levy for payable 21, the total increase is $392,435.59 or 5.29%. This is the total proposed levy. Individual property tax increases will vary. State law requires us to explain the reasons for majority, for major increases and decreases. So separate those out a little bit so you guys can see why the increases are happening. So our general fund alone is increasing $338,492. $170,313 of that is for long-term facilities. There was a correction that was made. The state had put our new building going into effect last year, well, actually this year, 2020, and it should have been 2021. So there's actually a correction of $170,000 that's going on this levy certification that would have been on last year's. Operating capital increased $23,303. And then our building land lease, we have an increase of $100,685. Majority of that we had tagged as a potential lease to house some CTE courses that we're working with the board on now, but needed to put it into the lease so it was actually available for next year. We'll go into our community services that much since it decreased $60.72. And then our debt service increase, $54,004.31. This is kind of an offset. Our debt service aid actually decreased $215,051. And our debt excess increased $265,727. The debt excess for last year was actually reduced, $265,727. So this year it's actually zero, which would show an increase over last year. So just to break down our levy, general fund, community service and debt service, total proposed school tax levy is the $708,542.01 that we're proposing. And just kind of give you a timeline of where we sit with that. You guys know on September 21st, the board approved the maximum levy. Mid-November, the property tax statements were sent out. They were doing the public hearing for the tax, truth and taxation. And then we will ask the board to certify the final levy December 21st as a board action. Any questions at all?
Very good. Thank you, Dion. Board forum, board members, anybody have anything they'd like to bring up?
I attended the collaborative meeting to the Families Collaborative 2 weeks ago. And we looked at budget. There is some significant budget carryover, but they're concerned with what the legislature is going to do. There was some discussion, we're going to meet in February again. There was some discussion that we may want to give school districts, there are 3, an additional $5,000 based upon what the legislature is going to do. So we will, our income from the collaborative potentially could increase by 5,000.
Bond Oversight Committee met last week, sorry, the weeks are all rolling into one. Everything continues to be on target with all of the changes at the high school, Montech, and Parkside. And things continue to be really exciting with the new build. Relatively close to on time with a few delays, but otherwise everything's looking really good. And then Aaron and I both attended the Minnesota School Board Association Delegate Assembly last Wednesday. Again, it's been crazy. And that was all the resolutions that will be supported by the Minnesota School Board Association on behalf of their legislative. So Aaron may have worked on this with it.
I don't think there's anything really earth-shattering that was discussed. Talked a little bit about just the budget situation. There were some resolutions passed on that. Discussed. There's quite a bit of discussion about CTE and just creating some regional centers around the state, which Marshall was one of the areas that they highlighted. So that was good. Those are probably the major highlights. Obviously, there was some talk a little bit about free and reduced lunches. That is pretty important, I think, for a lot of rural school districts, especially, or regional center school districts, especially. That certainly would have a big impact here and in some other schools that was approved as far as resolutions go. And so what that does now is that's what the MSBA is going to go and talk to our legislators about as they go into legislative sessions. So we'll see what comes out of that.
Good. Moving on to our discussion items, return to learn update.
I just wanted to share a few things, some learning model changes and such going on. So today, early childhood, Parkside, Westside, and Maytech came back into the hybrid model. Maytech is actually a face-to-face model, so the number of students we can space them out and such out there. But that went smoothly this morning. Just want to talk a little about the decision-making process with that. Looking at a number of data points, a lot of conversations with local health officials. Certainly not an easy conversation because we have people that really want kids back in school and people that are more cautious and feel we need to, be more cautious with that. So a lot of conversations with the health officials about what's safest, what can we do. The goal continues to be to operate the least restrictive model that we feel we can do so safely. So case rates in the state, the county, the city are still high, but our internal data was back to a spot we felt it was manageable. We could bring people back in. Part of the idea with the phased-in approach, because I had some questions about that. It's really fewer people, fewer staff, students in school means lower potential for subs, so we should be able to sub and keep positions filled better. And we also recognize that older kids don't necessarily, I heard you guys talking, come in, don't necessarily like the distance learning. Older students tend to be better able to be engaged and motivated in distance learning and remote learning than what our younger students are. So our plan right now is after the holiday break to consult additionally with public health, MDH, about returning on January 11th. That gives us a 2-week period following the break. So hopefully we'll be approved to bring middle school, high school back online on January 11th. CDC, there was an announcement yesterday and today. There's been a lot of conversation around the changes with the quarantine period, looking at changing that from a 14-day period, which it's been since March, to a 10-day period, or as low as a 7-day period if you were tested and had negative results and that sort of thing within certain timeframes. As of this point, today, MDH came out and said they're going to adopt these protocols as well. They have not updated our decision-making tree yet. So for the first couple of days here, we're going to stick with what we've got going. But certainly we will be following the guidelines from MDH as well. So I anticipate our decision-making tree will change in the next day or two. And then our quarantines would change and it would affect people currently in quarantine as well. Just want to make sure we have all the right information as we're making those decisions. Some conversations around activities taking place. So the governor's pause right now is lifted December 18th with activities. Assuming that happens, that still lifts on the 18th as it's been proposed. High School League has been having some meetings. They recently released the plans around some of that. So the winter sports season would look at starting practices on December 21st. So they don't practice on weekends and such right now, or holidays right now. So that would remain. Practices then could presumably start on December 21st, and it would be January 4th when competitions could start. Winter sports look like they'll have the same basic guidelines as what the fall had, with 30%, of the overall competitions allowed, and no more than a couple competitions a week, and spectators limited and that sort of thing. So it looks similar to what fall did with that. And as we have more details, we'll share them. More decisions coming in the next few days with that. Another thing I want to share, just the grab and go lunch bag. That's been a big thing too, for providing those lunches for families yet in distance learning. We've had a good response to that. Over our days of full distance learning, we were providing those meals from all the school sites, and now we'll be back to the middle school, high school for now, and then January 11th, we'll be back to just middle school. So kind of keeping some common threads with that. We've been averaging about 750 meals a day that we're serving, so the numbers have been good with that. On that day before Thanksgiving break, Taher pulled together and they offered, so families that came that day got 3 days worth of meals. It was a breakfast and a lunch in each bag. They distributed a total of 2,316 breakfasts and lunches that day. So huge numbers going out that day, but nice to be able to provide that for families too. And that was all, of course, at no charge for any kids that are 18 or younger in the community. So a lot going on with all of that. The other thing that I wanted to share, and this was kind of a last minute thing we got, Studio One worked with us over the past few days, and they put together a video showing a tour of the new addition at Parkside. And I'd like to share that with you guys. It's about a 5-minute long video, but I thought it'd be fun to share that because it turned out really nice. I mean, it's we can't do the open house we're hoping for, so we can share this for now.
Part of the discussion of the Mount Oversight Committee throughout was feel like we're losing a lot of the celebration that
Right.
can be around these great projects. So this was kind of the idea of a compromise to allowing it to be open for tours, but to get the word out that Parkside just they're done, and for people to be able to see it and celebrate it, and have something to be excited about.
Absolutely. So community that's watching this, you can access this also on our website. This link will be up. It's probably not live yet. Tomorrow it'll be live on the website. So out there, I encourage people to check it out. We plan on doing a similar type thing at Southview as soon as we have things a little bit further along there, but soon we'll do something there too.
Hey everyone, Darcy Love, principal at Parkside Elementary here. We are extremely excited to show to our community today the newly remodeled office area and secured entry at Parkside, as well as the brand new addition that you see out in front as you are driving by. So the first thing I want to share with you is our new secured entry. If you remember when we first entered Parkside, you would come directly into Parkside and go into the lobby area and around the corner to the office. Now we have a brand new entry, so when you come in our front doors, now you go right up here to our new door that goes right into our office area. All you need to do is press the button. So once you enter the Parkside office, you'll be greeted by our office staff, Laura Nybo and Nancy Grams. Otherwise, our office is pretty much the same, other than it's been updated and remodeled. So let's take a look at our new conference room and our new health services area. So that is our newly remodeled office area at Parkside Elementary. And now I'm super excited to share with you our new early childhood center. And Tiffany Teskey is going to walk you around and show you all of the great new things that we'll see down that way. And we are super excited to have all of our early childhood under one roof next year. So with that, let's go find Tiffany Teskey.
Hi, my name is Tiffany Teskey. I'm the Early Childhood Coordinator for Marshall Public Schools, and I'm really excited to share with you the new addition to Parkside Elementary for early childhood. Today we're going to start in our secured entry, and you'll be coming in a separate entrance than the Parkside main entrance, and there will be an opportunity for you to use an earphone here to ring a doorbell to get into the next area, which is the early childhood office. Welcome to the early childhood entrance. Once you come in from the secured entry, you'll come into this office, where Sarah Compline will greet you, and my office is just behind us. Next, we're going to be touring our early childhood classrooms that are ready to go. The construction is about 90% complete. For our classes over here at Parkside, we have 3 classrooms ready to go, but ECFE will be the only one making the transition December, January, as we will move the other classrooms over at the end of the school year when the 2nd grade classrooms move over to Southview. And now we're going to go ahead and take a peek at those 3 rooms. This classroom is Early Childhood Family Education. So our programming is birth to age 5 with parent education. Welcome to our preschool room. 3-year-olds will be in this space in the morning and 4-year-olds in the afternoon. Welcome to our preschool room. This classroom will have 4-year-olds in it all day long. And I look forward to having many students come and join our classrooms, as we will have 9 classrooms or spaces available to us this next year. This is our early childhood play space. Until the 2nd grade classrooms can move over to the Southview School, we do have some furniture that's being stored in this space, but at the end of the school year, when everybody moves over, the space will be all brand new and ready to go for students to play in. This ends our video of the Early Child Edition at Parkside Elementary. I want to thank the community for the support for students, for staff, for our families, and this beautiful addition would not be possible without your support. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is a beautiful facility and it's ready to be shared with you.
Nicely done.
They did a really nice job putting that together.
The 2021 MSBA conference will be held in virtual format this year. The conference will be broken into 3 Thursday mornings in January. If you're interested in participating, let Tricia know. Moving on to our discussion items. This is a second review of policy 801, 802, 805, 807, 809, and 714. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Moving on to our action items. The first action item is approval of the calendar changes to allow for 30-minute prep time for our teachers and staff. Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
These just want to share, this is in response to the governor's executive order 2094, where he asked us to add an extra half hour per day of prep time for staff. We worked with the EA on how to best make that happen, where it's going to have a big impact on classroom time with students, but certainly understanding the teachers are doing a lot of extra this year and how to provide that extra time for them. So the plan we came up with is this one day each month that will become a full prep day, a work day for staff. We won't schedule anything extra on that day. They get time to work on what they need to get done. The dates we're looking at are December 22nd. It's the day before break. So right now that was scheduled to be a full student day. It'll become a full prep day. There'll be no students that day. January 22nd is the last day of the quarter for quarter 2. The full work day that following Monday is a comp day for our K4 staff. And then 512 would have a PD time that day. February 12th is right now scheduled to be a half a student contact day, and then they have PD scheduled in the afternoon. We do have a nationally known presenter coming in that afternoon, so we keep that for a half day. But the other half day would be a non-student contact day, full work day for staff. March 26th is the end of quarter 3, so same thing again. That was supposed to be a full day, it'll become just a work day. And April 1st is right now it's scheduled as a PD day. We would not schedule any PD that day. We'd give them a full day as work time.
Any other comments? Not, please vote. It is approved. Approval to enter into an agreement with the Minnesota State University Moorhead. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Open for discussion.
This is just for doing like student teaching placements and such with them.
It's a good program.
It is.
Okay, hearing no other comments, we'll vote, please. It is approved. Thank you, board members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.